Alright everybody, so today we're going to take a look at how you can create this render that you can see right now on the screen. We're going to use Blender mostly, but we're also going to make use of a lot of other pieces of software such as Quixel Mixer, MakeHuman, and Photoshop for the final touches. While working on this piece, we are going to be going through a lot of information. So first of all, we are going to get into creating this big human, like the focal point here. We're going to use Human Maker for that because it'll just make our life a lot easier. Then we are going to talk about how we can create like the whole asset, which actually from the render itself you can't see all the details that are in there, but we are going to be working on that as well, because there's a lot of things we can learn and appreciate while working on that. For that part, we're going to also be using Quixel Mixer, which is not actually a requirement, but I'm just going to do it that way because, well, that's the way I'm going to do it. What else? We are going to dress the scene with foliage, so we're going to do that all in Blender. We are going to also use um, some Quixel Megascans to dress up the scene and make it more interesting. Now, I want to talk to you about why and how this idea came to me, the idea of this render. So, the past couple of months I was working on a video game, Among the Trolls. I highly recommend you check that out. And in here, I'm working as an environment artist and I'm working as a technical artist. And one day, my task was to go into this area of the map and create a ground hole for create a cool looking ground hole where some characters are going to do some things in there. I'm sorry, but I can't say a lot about what's going to happen there. But I was basically asked to create this ground hole, where some stuff is going to happen. And while working on this ground hole, I realized that this is looking really cool, and I wanted to do something with this technique. I wanted to do something with this in my personal time, so personal project of mine, and pretty much I came up with this render because of that. So actually, thanks to that. All right. So first of all, what we're going to do is we're going to create the human, like the focal point, and to do that, we are going to go inside MakeHuman, which is a free piece of software that you can grab online yourself. You don't need to do absolutely anything to get it. Just go over to the website and download it, install it. I don't even know if it needs installing, but just get that. Alright, so once it opens up, it looks like this. We have this orange looking character that is half male, half female. It's a third African. It's all over the place. Now, the good thing about this is we have those sliders where we can change absolutely anything about this model. So gender, I want to make it a male. I can also make it female like this. So I want this to be a male. And if you're looking down here, you're gonna get the information. So it's male, age 25, blah blah blah, all that shit. All right, so we have this. I don't care about the age, the muscle. I want some more muscle. I actually want this guy to be fully African. I don't know why. I just want it just like that. All right, so some more muscle, a bit more weight, height. I don't fucking care. All right, just play however you want with this. Make your own character. Then just go to genitals. It's got some genitals. I don't care about this at all. Face, again, I don't care. I don't care about how this is looking. I want to go to the torso. I want to make this guy more muscular, and for that I'm going to bring this a bit. What is it? The pecs. Move that. No, I don't want any of that. Alright, wisdom. Okay, so here's some muscles. Alright, pectoral muscle. Get this outside a bit more, a bit too much. What else do we have in here? Some cone shape. Yeah, I want that. Make him look a bit more muscular. And yeah, alright, I don't care about anything else. Go to the arms. I know. Again, I don't care about this. Just play with all the settings you want. Create everything. You know, make him look however you want. Now I'm not gonna spend much time on this because it's pretty self-explanatory. You just go through the steps and you can just move sliders and things are going to change. You don't need to know absolutely anything. You don't need to be a character artist. You don't need to be anything but a human being with a brain that can move sliders up and down. Alright, that's all you need to do. So yeah, this is the guy I'm going to use. Again, I don't care about it that much. You can also go to geometries here. You know, you can dress this guy up. Now look at him, he's a gangster. But I don't want any of this. I don't want any of this. The only thing I want is materials, geometries. There was a place around here. There was a setting where I could make him a bit more muscular. So eyes, I don't care how for the eyes, that's right. Hair, I don't want hair, but you can go with hair. Teeth, I don't care about teeth. Topologies, yeah, topologies is what I was after. So we have muscle right here. You select that, you see that you get a bit more detail, like some abs, some, you know, just some general detail here. Now, this is all I want. So just male muscle. Again, you can go through this and do some eyebrows or whatnot. Again, I don't care about this. Eyelashes, tongue as well. Materials. This is something I want actually. I want something African. I want a young African male. Alright, we got something, you know. Old African male, middle-aged African male. Nah, just go with the young. That's it, that's alright. Okay, so you got this character in here, and the most important thing that we need in here is a skeleton and a rig, because I want to bring this into Blender, and I want to be able to control its body positions. I want to be able to move his legs, his arms, his whole body in order to make him pose the way I want him to pose in my render. So for that I'm going to use a default, which is a extremely easy and simple rig, you see. So every little bone, you can just select this, move it, and you'll move the whole body. Okay, so after we choose a rig, under the rig presets, I can go into files and I can go, I don't know, anywhere I want. I want to export this guy. I want to export this guy in FBX. I'm gonna save him on desktop. I'm gonna call him the dude. Yeah, that's the proper name. Alright, and now you see I've just exported that, and it is inside my desktop. Now I want to jump into Blender. I've prepared the simple empty project here. Its cycle is GPU. I've got a high contrast here under filmic performance 256 film. This is transparent. I always do that. Alright, now I'm just gonna go and import. Alright, so took a little break in there because I've actually done something wrong here. So just change something small. Just go to pose and select this rig preset CMUMB. Trust me, it's just gonna work better. Then just save the export of my mesh back into your local machine, and now go to File, Import FBX, and just select this guy, and here it is. Now let's go see, it's just this dude we just made. And if I select the armature and I go into pose mode and select one of the bones, I can simply just move him around like so. See, and this is something really important, because we don't want in our render, we won't want our guy to be sitting like this, even though in my final render it looks like that. But I've gotten some feedback about that and I agree with it. We want to pose this character, and we want to pose this in a more personal way, because right now it just looks like a bare 3D T-pose model. Now there's a thing I don't like, and that is has metallic. What else? Let me just make sure everything the way I want it and like it. Now, alright, I'm just go under shading and see if everything's alright. Just turn this off, this as well. Nope. Okay, we don't need no more map. So we only have this albedo, and I'm actually going to select this and add a subdivision surface, because it was kind of the mesh was kind of pointy, so you can see it like this. Yeah, so just add some more detail into it. Alright, okay, so one more thing I want is the eyes. They are black and that is looking bad. So just going to edit mode into the eyes and press L and just delete those faces. Now you can see the eyes, and while we are on the eyes, and just rename this material eyes and just delete all of those, because I want to make it non-metallic. Specular, we can leave it at 1, but I want the roughness to be somewhere around 0.2, something like that. Specular, now just go with this. Right now his eyes are glossy, like they should be. Alright, so this is the guy. I don't even know if you're going to keep the albedo, so the texture on him. So I'm not going to do any more work on this guy's textures and materials, because right now it's a good base. I know I can work with this. I know I can continue with my scene with the way he is right now. Alright, so we have the guy. Now what I want to do is I want to make this guy a lot bigger, because right now he's 197 meters, and in the final render I want him to be this incredibly big character. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to select everything, so him and his armature as well, S, and I'll scale this guy by 10, so he's now 19 meters instead of 1.9 meters. Alright, just apply everything, and I'll put a quick break on the recording, because I know most of you will want to see the keys I'm pressing, so I'm going to enable that. Just a second. Alright guys, so now I'm back, and now you can see everything I'm pressing. You can see it right here. Alright, so now where were we? Alright, so we just scaled this guy up by 10, so he's now 19 meters high. Now we got our character inside our project. Now we want to go ahead and create the whole mesh. And what I'm going to do for this is I'm actually going to create a cylinder. I'm going to create a cylinder, which I'm then going to place its origin at the bottom. Now I'm going to cut this face. I'm going to shade smooth. I'm going to add auto normals, so everything's looking nice. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to increase the scale of this guy as much as I want, and this is going to be the diameter of the hole we are building. So I want the hole to be, I don't know, perhaps something like this. So okay, so this is how large it's going to be, and now I want to make it the hole be around this area. So I want his legs to be inside the hole, but just about this much. All right, now I'm selecting this outer circle, this edge, and I'm extruding this outward like this. All right, but I'm actually going to extrude it up about until here. Now I'm going to extrude this up a bit like so, and I'm now going to extrude this outwards just a little bit once again. Right, just make this big enough to cover a good portion, a good deal. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to do this so we can see better what we're working with. All right, now we have our basic shape for the hole. Now what I want to do is there's some things that we need to keep in mind. First of all is we are going to add displacement to this mesh. So this is going to be displaced, but its topology right now isn't really good for displacing because we have non-uniform phases. Now what we want to do is we want to create loop cuts like this until we get squares. So we end from this, which is actually so the thing that's wrong with this is right now if we add any kind of displacement or anything that has to do with the topology and the vertex count of this mesh, we're going to get bad results because our mesh will distribute details, and these features will get distributed nicely like this, so horizontally, because we have all those lines of these edges, but vertically there's no details, there's no edge loops to support any kind of detail in displacement. So what we're going to do is we hit Ctrl R and we add a bunch of cuts until we get some squares like this. And now we are going to do the same to every face. So do it like this, and we do it like this. Yeah, something around, yeah, something like this. That's all right. And we are also going to do it like this, but instead of doing loop cuts, we are actually going to insert in this face. So press I, go a bit inwards, press I, go a bit inwards, go press I, and so on, so on. All right, now we have a evenly distributed mesh, and you can see we press a Ctrl 2 to add subdivision, and as you can see everything is nice and uniform, so squares everywhere, squares in here, squares in there, squares everywhere. That's what we want, because displacement and anything actually that has to do with that deforms the topology of an object needs uniform topology. All right, now I'm going to I think I'm just going to keep it like this. So I like this dense mesh we have right now. So I've shaded this smooth. I'll add this bad boy here again, and this is what we have so far. So we have these dudes hidden in that weird hole. Now what we want to do is add some loop cuts like this, because I wanted this edge right here to be a bit more tight, and that's all I'm going to do. Another thing I'm going to do is alright, getting back to this, what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to add a displace modifier, make a new texture, and now just make this a clouds texture, something like this, and I'm going to make this a bit bigger. So yeah, I'm going to put the size to 1, and I'm going to add another subdivision surface, so everything's smoother. You can see the difference. And the reason I'm adding this displacement right now is because this is going to be a ground. This is going to be play the role of the ground, and ground is rarely this smooth and uniform. So I'm just adding a bit of randomness in here. Another thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go into edit mode, select the vertices. So I can just select vertices, press O, so I have the what is this called, proportional editing stuff enabled. And I'm going to, what I want to do right now is add a bit more randomness to the ground. So I'm going to select this point, and I'm going to drive this upwards a bit, and I have a good reason for this. Alright, perhaps select that thing and bring it down, something like that. Select some point over there, make, I don't know, just make a hill or something. Yeah, kind of like that. And some other point in there, make another hill, maybe a bit smaller. Yeah, and just make some kind of interesting shapes in here. You know, just select some points here and there, manipulate them, displace them, just play around and make sure nothing is too even or perfect. Alright, I'm going to leave it like this. Actually, I want this point, I want it to be a bit higher, like this. Alright, I'm going to leave everything like this. We don't really care about what's going on here inside the hole, because, well, we are not going to see that anyway. Alright, so this is our ground mesh. Now we need to UV unwrap this because we're going to place textures on it. So first of all, I'm going to make a material, I'm going to call it ground, and now I'm going to take the displacement out and that stuff until it's looking like this. Now what I want to do is go into the material and just make a new texture. I want to UV grid, yeah, like this. So it looks like this. And the reason I'm doing this this color grid is because I want to unwrap this, and I want to be able to see very clearly if there's stretching. Now, if you don't really know how to UV map something, I suggest you look it up and understand the basics. Because I'm not going to explain much right here. I'm just going to do my thing and just unwrap everything. So do that. I'm going to add this in here. I'm going to put a seam in there as well. Yeah, and I'm just going to hit unwrap. Now I want to know if it looks alright, so I'm going in here, and what you need to understand is if there is no stretching, so if those squares are squares, basically everything's alright. Now you can see a seam right here because I've added a seam, but we don't care about that. We don't really care about hiding those seams really well because, well, we are going to place a lot of foliage over these over this area, so no one will see shit, and yeah, it's also going to be dark, so then again no one is going to see shit. Now, one other thing I want to do is I want to play with the texel density, and what that is basically, so if you look at this square texture, the smaller the size of the texture is on a face, the more detail it's going to be inside that area. So now what I want you to do, and what I'm also going to do, is think about where do I need the most detail on this asset. Now, looking at this render again, you can see that we can easily just move and skip this step, because there's really not that much detail we can actually really see in the whole. But for the fun of it, I'm going to assume this. Considering the fact that we are going to have a strong light inside the hole that's going to play the role of a fire, we can assume that those faces, yeah, so those faces of the hole are going to be seen the most, as well as this outer layer in here, while what's down here and what's up here doesn't really matter, because here the camera will never reach, and I'm never going to see the bottom of this hole. No one is ever going to see that, so I don't fucking care what's there. And here, this whole big portion is going to be covered up by trees and grass, and then again no one's going to see that. And you gotta understand that if no one's going to see something that you're making, then don't give a shit about it, because, well, if you can't see it, it doesn't exist. Alright, so what I'm going to do right now, I'm going to go into UV editing. I'm going to work with this. Now you can see this is my UV map, and you can here see that the biggest face, the biggest area of the mesh that's taking the most space in here is this outer layer, which as you can remember, we said that we don't care how much detail in this is in this. Now, another thing to understand is this square is going to be our texture, and the more space some parts of the UV will take in this square, that means it's going to have a lot more resolution, so therefore a lot more detail. Now, I want to take this, move this out of the way, and I just want to see which are the parts that I'm interested in once again. So I'm selecting this, and I can see that this inner part correlates to this. So I'm putting this in here. Now, what I'm actually doing is I'm putting to the right the things that I care about and I want to have the most resolution, and I'm drawing to the left the things that I don't give a shit about. So again, we had this, which is this place right here, and now we care about these faces. So it's that stuff. We can take this, put it out of the way, and we don't care about it anymore. Now I want to work this, because you see how worked this is. I guess this is fine, but let me make this square. Alright, so if I make this, now usually you want to have everything straight like this, but as you can see, if I do that, now this starts to work the texture, and I don't want that, so I'm going to revert and I'm going to keep it like this. The reason this is worked and it looks fine is because the mesh is also worked. So yeah, I'm going to keep it like this, but I'm actually going to make this bigger. So you see how as I'm increasing this, the texture gets smaller on the mesh, and that is what I want, because I want all the texture resolution goodness to be on this part right here. So I'm going to make it this big, place it right over here on the right. Now I'm going to take this and first of all try to, yeah, I guess that's alright if I do like this. Alright, so take this piece as well. Okay, so take this piece as well and increase the size of this. Make sure it doesn't get out the square. Right, I'm going to place this over here. Now I'm going to move everything like this, and all those guys again. So this little part is this part. This, I don't care about it. Can be as small as nothing, and that's actually what I'm going to do. And I'm going to place it right there, because then again, I don't fucking care how much resolution that gets. Now this is a really small portion, so I'm going to decrease the size of this as well, place it somewhere, I don't care. And this, even though I don't really care about how much texture resolution is on this, I still have all this space left, and it would be a shame if I didn't do something like that. So I'm going to make this as big as I can without overlapping anything. So something like this, I guess it's alright. Yeah, that's alright. Okay, so this is my UV map for this guy. As you can see, these walls have the most resolution, then this, and then this, while these areas and this one as well have absolutely no resolution whatsoever. Alright, so the final mesh is looking like this, with a texture on it, and like this without any stuff. One other thing I want to do is take one of those points and just move it a bit to the center, so the mesh is not that square, that roundish, and it's more organic like this. Alright, I'm just going to keep it like this. And this is my final ground asset. What I'm going to do right now is select it, go to File, Export FBX, select selected objects, save this somewhere. Tutorial, I'm going to put it like ground mesh. Alright, I just saved this. And now I can go into Mixer. Alright, so we are inside Mixer, and once we open up the program we get this. So just go ahead and make a project, make a mix, but first of all make sure you have a 2020 or 2021 version. In general, I'm just going to call this whatever, working resolution 4K, hit alright, and everything is going to open up in here. This is the working space we're going to use. Alright, now first thing you want to do is go into setup, and instead of plane you want to go 3D asset, and 3D asset, load 3D asset. No, so custom model, not 3D asset. Alright. And just go to your ground mesh. Select it, wait a second, and here is your 3D asset. But you can see that we need to go in here, go into edit mode, and do a flip normals. Then just redo this. So export FBX, ground mesh. Alright, and in here just import the model once again, and everything is going to look alright. See, so this is what we have. This is our mesh. Now we want to texture this, and the good thing about Quixel is that it is linked to Quixel Megascans, so we can use all the goodness from there. So local library, let's just start with a ground texture. No, I don't want 3D, I want surface. So ground, what kind of ground do we want for this? So try rocky ground, this sounds nice. select it and wait for it to load up in here. Alright, so as you can see, the texture got placed in here, and as we talked about here, this is the resolution in this part, but if we go here, you can see the resolution is much better, and that is thanks to the UV tricks we've done in Blender. While the resolution down here is atrocious, but then again, we will never see that. We don't care about that. It doesn't exist. Yeah, what do we want to do now? So we've placed this ground asset. Now we want to do another asset. So can I just search? Yeah, I can. So let's do some roots. Forest roots. Add this on top of our dry rocky ground, and a really cool thing that we can do with this. Alright, so one cool thing we can do is here under blend, we can check like from below, and this threshold, if you play with it, will make the texture come and blend into the other texture from below, so we get a nice effect, right? So now one other thing I want to do is change the scale, so something like this. Alright, and selecting this, I want to make this a bit more bluish. Yeah, something like this. Yeah, alright. I wonder if what happens if we put from above. Oh yeah, this is looking, oh no, this is looking much better. Now I'm going to do it like this. Yeah, this is looking cool. And basically just go into your local library, search for cool textures, and play around. Just we hit a moss, we get a Nordic moss, and we see how we can blend this as well. So let's do from above and just play this, preserve details, radius, just play around every bit of parameters around here until you get the things and the results you want. So this is looking kind of alright. And now one other thing I want to do is do some cliff. So I don't know, like this one. Let's see what this is going to look like. Alright, so I'm going to put this from below, I guess. And what about from above? You know what? I'm going to delete this layer, go into library and select this one. I'm going to select this one because I think it's going to look a bit better. And one other thing I want to do is, so display, anti-aliasing, fade, subdivisions. No, I don't want to do that. Performance. There was a setting about tessellation, but I can't seem to find that. Bake layer, display, gradient. This one? Yeah, just put this under 10. And you can see what's happening when I do that. So just more detail, actual geometry details. Alright, so now that I've done this, I'm going back to layers, and this leaf one I'm going to put from above. I'm going to blend this in here as well, or from below. I don't know, whatever works. So just do something like this, perhaps. Which one is this yellowish color? Right, so it's that one, and I want to turn this a bit darker. this. And now I want the forest roots to be up here. I want this to be a bit more visible. I don't know, maybe like this. I don't even know what I'm doing. I'm just playing around with settings until things start to look nice. And two other things I want to do is, so this rock leaf. No, actually just one more thing, and that is I want to add a layer of water. So add liquid layer, and if you do this, something cool is going to happen, and that is we are going to get this muddy, this water. And playing around with the threshold gives you the ability to control how much puddles there are. So if we take a look in here, I'm going to get a good look on those stuff. Okay, so I'm going to use something like 0.5 negative, and yeah, this is how everything's looking. And the reason why I like adding water and reflective puddles is because light is looking really good when it shines like this downward. All right, so let's say this is the texture. This is the texture we want to do for our ground hole. Now everything we need to do is go under export. We choose a place where you want to save this, so I go into under tutorial, ground hole textures. Okay, so I don't care the name, no. So what I want is the albedo, I want the roughness, I want the normal, the displacement, the AO, and the metalness, and I want this to be 4K. Yeah, and I'm just going to export to disk and just wait a bit until everything gets exported. Alright, now I'm back in Blender, and what I want to do is go into shading. So just select the ground hole, go into shading, select this, because now I want to add the textures we just made. Now, considering that you have Node Wrangler add-on enabled, you can select this, go Ctrl-Shift-T, and just go to the textures and select the albedo, the metalness, the normal, and the roughness, and it's going to add those into the correct slots for you. Okay, now this is how our ground hole is looking. So if we go into the scene, right here into the scene, and do an environment texture, I just want to add an HDRI, so maybe this one. Now when I go into render, this is how it's looking. Right, so things are right. There's a couple more things I want to do to this material. So going under shader, no, actually not in here, but adding another displacement and using the UV as the coordinate, and then just select image, and we are going to use our own displacement map, this one, which right now is it's messing everything up, but just turn it down like so, you can see what's happening. Right, and do another subdivision here, and you see there's a lot more detail right now. This is how everything is looking like. All right. Now we have the hole, we have the guy. The next thing we want to do is we want to do the roots. So all that good stuff that's coming out of here. And for this, I'm going to isolate the ground mesh. And the thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to create a, what is that? A Bezier curve. Go to edit mode, delete everything. Now select the draw tool, and if you go here under tool, we can select projection depth to surface and tolerance maybe something like 2 pixels. Now what this is going to do is, instead of taking Bezier curves and manually placing stuff around, I can just draw a line and it creates a Bezier curve exactly like that. See, now it is really simple to create this kind of effect. Alright, so let's do it again. Curve, Bezier, edit mode, delete everything, draw tool, under tool, go surface, and that's pretty much it. Now what you want to do is just go nuts and create some roots that are coming up like this, maybe something like that. I'm just going to speed up this process because it's literally me just drawing lines. Alright, now you have all those Bezier curves, and what you want to do is go under here, under geometry, and add some depth. And now look what you have. You have all this complex data without any kind of work, which is super great. Now one other thing I want to do is I want to do another pass of this. So create a new Bezier curve, delete it, make sure I've got surface on the projection depth. And the reason I'm doing this in another phase and another pass and not in the same pass as the one I've done it before is because now when I'm going to draw another line, the line is going to be above the other roots, so like this. And if I were to do it in the previous pass, then that wouldn't happen because those other roots didn't have any kind of depth. So I'm going to speed this up again. Alright, so I've just finished up doing those, and the same thing, I'm going to add some depth to this. So, and you can see how these new ones are going over the old ones, which is what we wanted. Good. Now, this is the roots. And right now I want to add some material to those roots. And the way I'm going to do the material for the roots is I'm actually going to use the same textures that we've made for the ground. And what I mean by that is I'm going to make a new material. I'm going to name this roots, and I'm going to go under the shading tab. Alright, go under the shading tab, and I'm going to add the albedo. Come on, just leave it alone. I'm going to add this albedo here, and there is going to be one problem with this. First is these guys are not UV unwrapped, so the texture is not actually showing up, and this really doesn't bother us because in our render those are not going to be seen that much. But for the sake of the tutorial, I'm going to unwrap those, and the way I'm going to do that is by selecting them, going convert to mesh, and now those are meshes, like proper subdivision geometry meshes. And select everything and go Smart UV project, go OK. Alright, now this is how it's looking, and you can see right over here that because we are using the same texture, the roots and the ground are looking kind of the same, and they blend in to the point that we can't really see the roots anymore. So to deal with that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this, going to shading tab, and right between the albedo and the principal shader, I'm going to add a mix RGB. I'm going to add it like this, and I'm going to put this color to be some kind of yellowish color like this. Now I'm going to make it an add perhaps, or maybe a multiply. I don't know, just play around with the settings till you get something interesting. Overlay, not really. Color dodge, I guess. Just make it like this. Yeah, I guess this is all right. You can see the roots very well. Now I want to mention something that some of you might be talking about, and that is those areas in here where the texture is fucked up. Now the reason for this is if we go into edit mode and go into UV editing, you can see that some of those, so all of those orange stuff is the UVs for the roots, and you can see that some of those are actually going outside our actual texture into this solid color, and it is because of that some of the areas are without the texture, so like this or like this. Now what you have to do in order to solve this is just take all of those, select them not one by one, but it's going to be a pretty tedious job, so just select those and just make sure they are inside those textures. This is what I've done for my render, but I'm not going to waste my time doing that anymore, for obvious reasons, of course. Now I'm going to select the other roots and then select the first roots, Ctrl L and go materials. Now they share the same material, but we have to convert. No. So select those, convert them into meshes as well, and make sure we unwrap those as well, so the textures can actually be seen. Alright, unwrapping is done, and here's how things looking. Everything's alright. You can at least see the roots and they don't blend into the ground that much. If you go into a render view, this is what we get. Right, this is alright, this is pretty fine. Everything is clearly defined. I know where the roots are, I know where the roots aren't, and everything's looking really nice so far. Let's add the guy in as well. Yeah. Alright, so this is our scene so far. Alright, now what I want to do, let me think what I want to do the first thing. Let me just make a camera. So add in a camera like this. And just go out. I want this to be an 85mm. Go out the frame. I want to display thirds because I want this guy to be, you know, kind of like this to the side, and I want it to be even more upwards. Maybe not, maybe just go closer. Now just go up, bring the camera down. Like this perhaps. I think this is, yes, this is looking all right. It's just a simple camera position right now. We don't need to consider this as the final one anyway. All right, so the thing I'm going to do right now is I'm going to dress up the scene with some foliage. And to do that, I'm going to use a really cool add-on of Blenders, which is called Botaniq. So get your hands on Botaniq or get your hands on some foliage. It's your call how you want to do this, but I'm going to use Botaniq. As I was saying, we are going to place some foliage around, and the first thing I want to do is add some trees, because those are the biggest and are going to fill up most of the frame, and that is exactly what I want. So let's get some trees, and I'm going to get something like this guy. Yeah, that's fine. I'm going to put him under there. I'm going to take another tree and now something like this. Yeah, all right. Put it under there. Let's get a couple more trees just for the road. No, like this one. I want something a bit bigger, like this perhaps. Right, yeah, that is not bigger at all. And come on, let's do another one. And I'm going to do this Japanese lurch, whatever this is. All right, this is the trees I'm going to use. And the way I'm going to dress this scene up with the trees is by the follow. So I'm going to select all these trees. I'm going to hit Ctrl G to create a new collection, and I'm going to call this trees. All right. Now I'm going to add a circle. I'm going to add this circle that I'm going to scale up quite a lot. Okay, so something like this. And I'm going to use this one, and I'm going to add a particle system into this. So a hair particle, I'm going to go under render, and instead of path I'm going to go collection, and I'm going to and I'm going to go with trees. What the fuck is the trees? You know what, I'm going to go with this one. Yeah, it's okay. Now I want it to be a lot less trees. I want the rotation to be upwards. Yeah, so like this. I'm going to scale those up a bit more, so 0.24. I'm just trying to make sure they are the same height as this one. Alright, now what I want to do is under render, show emitter. I don't want this to be seen. And now what I'm going to do is just place this guy around. So something like this. Okay, so we have some trees in there. We have some trees over here. And we can just go with a different seed. Maybe some more trees. Alright. So something like this. Now I want this one, but I want to do another so simply just do another collection. I don't know why the trees don't work. I guess it's because of Botaniq. But yeah, I'm just going to go like this. Rotation I want it to be global X. I wanna increase the scale of those, kind of like 0.24, what, 2, so 0.24. Yeah, that's the sweet number. All right, then just place those around. Yeah, kind of like this, I guess. So we have those trees in there. Just copy those, place them around. Do some trees in here. I don't know, just fill up the space. Basically, you want to do some kind of framing with the trees to the point where you are basically creating a way for the viewer eyes to flow towards this guy. So if I hide everything, you can see there's a lot of dead space around here, especially behind him, to the right of him. What I want to do is fill up this space with nice details, but unnecessary details that we don't actually that are not actually the main focus for the tutorial. And in doing so, we are going to make it more clear that our eyes should be focusing on this part of the image. All right. Yeah, so I'm just going to copy those around. So I'm just going to do a speed forward on this part. Alright, so let's say we are happy with the way we've placed those trees. And if it is so, then let's go ahead and add some grass. And for the grass, I'm going to do exactly the same thing. So I'm actually going to spawn a new asset. I want to do grass, if I can find it here. So shrubs. Okay, so here's grass. And I'm going to do like this basic ground covering. So this is the grass. And right now I'm going to isolate the ground hole. And I'm basically going to apply a hair particle on this. But before doing anything else, I'm going to do some weight painting because I don't want there to be grass everywhere, and I want to paint with my hand the areas I want there to be grass. So yeah, just to do some brushing over here. I know there's actually a way to do like scattering using Botaniq, but I haven't done it before and I was too lazy to see how that is done before recording this tutorial. I've actually don't had that much time to prepare this tutorial because there's a lot of other things that need to be done. So yeah, I'm just doing it the way I've done it in my actual render. But the stupid part about using weight paint is that it moves so fucking bad, it lags, and that's not pleasant to work at all. So yeah, just, you know, because this is a tutorial and I don't wanna spend all my time doing some weight painting, I'm actually going to just close up this ring in here and call it done. Otherwise I would have spent a lot more time doing some weight painting around here as well, but yeah, there's no time for that. We are going to have to work with what we have at the moment. Yeah, alright. I'm sick of doing this, so this is going to have to cut it. Going back into object mode, and under vertex groups, I'm going to choose group and length, like this. And now I can go under render and choose collection and go grass basic. And this is going to place that grass for me. Is it correctly? Not really. So first of all, let me make this quite bigger. So 0.24. As I said, the magic number. Now I want to get this, and we are going to need to rotate this guy because you see how those particles are all spawned in the wrong direction. They are kind of rotated towards the right. We are going to need to rotate the actual mesh in order to get that right. So let me just rotate this around a bunch and see what's going on. I don't even know if it's going to work because it's not an actual asset, but rather, yeah, it's not going to work because I can't do Control A on that. But what I'm going to do is do the same as before. So go into rotation and go global X, and yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm going to bump those numbers up, so 2.2K, and I'm actually going to also add some children because I want this to be nice and dense. So here we go, we have a lot of a lot of grass. Yeah. So if we take a quick render out of this, this is how it's looking. See, so yeah, just grass, nothing fancy. The thing I want to do instead is go on the render and scale randomness, just bump this up like 0.4. Yeah, this is a bit better. Rotation as well, we can do like randomize a bit. Yeah, there we go. And now the grass is not that that uniform, but this is lagging up the computer. So what I'm going to do for now is I'm actually going to turn off those particles, because life is so much easier when you don't see the particles. Alright, so far we are in here. This is where we are with our scene, and the next step we want to do is we want to add the cliff, and for that I've used an asset that I got out of the Megascans. So I'm going to import an FBX. I'm going to tutorial, nature rock, and it's this one right here. Okay, so as you can see, this is the mesh I want to use. Now I'm going to add a new material, call it a cliff, going to the shading mode, Ctrl Shift T, going to its textures, go with albedo, normal, 0, and roughness. Yeah, that's about right, everything's looking fine, come on. Alright, as you can see, this is the asset we are going to use. I'm going to isolate these 3 layers, and I'm going to jump into the camera view, and I'm going to place this in a way that is framing the scene quite nice. So something like this perhaps. I like the fact that we have this rock over here. It creates a really good framing. So I'm going to place it like this. It's alright. This is how the scene is looking right now. That's alright. And another thing I want to do is basically just copy this and place it somewhere around that area, because I want it to be some other elements other than grass, trees, and foliage in general. So yeah, I'm just going to add this cliff in there as well. You know, just make sure it's looking nice, something like that perhaps. And this. Yeah, okay, I guess that's fine. Yeah, alright, so as I said, I guess this is fine. Now, what I want to do is remember that we have a rig for this motherfucker. Let's use it. So select the rig, go into pose mode, and let's see what kind of stuff we can do with this. I have something in mind, but I have also zero idea that I can do it. No. So get out of pose, and I want to isolate those guys. Alright, this is going to be much faster now. So pose mode, I want to select, come on, select. Yeah, alright, I'm going to keep this guy like this because it takes quite a while to arrange this guy, and moving the bones just lags my computer, and it's annoying and it's wasting time. There's a problem in here because of the way I've moved the bone, but being a tutorial I'm just going to not care about it. But you shouldn't do the way I do it. Just make sure you spend the time and get this right. Alright, now there is some posing to this guy. It's not looking cool at all, but at least it's not the straight arms, the T-pose kind of shit. Now, another thing that we want to do is add a protagonist. So when I was working on the initial piece, I knew that it was lacking something, and it was lacking some foreground elements, and because of that I've placed some guy in here, and I go this, yeah, so I've placed that guy right here. I'm just going to make him a bit bigger like this to make it look like he's right in here in the camera, right next to the camera actually. Alright, so this is the guy. He's got some textures, I believe. No, he doesn't, but we can take care of that. So I'm going to alright, I actually don't know if I have the textures anymore. So for now I'm just going to keep him like the pink panther, and leave him completely pink like this. Alright, so let's just move on with our scene. I'm going to make this guy a bit smaller because I don't want his head to look weird with that hand right there. I want it to be a bit of separation like that. That's alright. Okay, turn this guy a bit like this, so his head looks like he's watching the main focus, as he should. Now another thing I want to add is some other trees that will block this part. So this is dead space over here. I want this to go away, and this is dead space quite a bit, so I want that to go away as well. And here at the bottom, right after this cliff, there is some dead space as well, which I want to fill up, and I'm going to use trees for that. And just take a look at the simple way I'm going to do this. So take a tree, place it around here perhaps, just go something like this. Yeah, that's alright. And rotate it a bit. Yeah, I guess something like this could work. I'm trying to find an angle that's looking the best. Yeah, just a little bit like this. Now I'm going to take one of the other trees, this one, because it has some more empty space between the leaves, and what I'm going to do is drag this over here, and I'm going to use it to fill up that space I was talking about here in the ground. So something like this, I reckon. Alright, that can do it. And I'll just take this guy around, I don't know, just, and place him a bit over here to do some more framing, kind of like this, like guess. Yeah, alright. Now another thing I want to do is I don't really have the time right now, but what I would do right now is I would place some grass over here because right now it's just bare ground and it's not going to look the best. So take your time and I'm going to weight paint and paint some red areas over there just to make sure that the grass is visible in there as well. Alright guys, so now before we get into the lighting, there's still one simple effect that we haven't discussed, and that is um, all those splines that um, move around the character. And for that there is a really simple technique here in Blender. And the first thing you want to do is make sure that you have extra objects here. Add curve extra objects, enable that. And now just select your character, and here under modifiers you will have a modifier for the what is that called, for the rig, for the rig. Just apply that. So now when you go into edit mode, everything's all right. So select your mesh, go shift A, curve, knots, bounce spline, and you can now see that this has been filled with splines like this. And if we go into settings, we can choose the number of bounces. So smaller number, less wires, higher number, more wires. So something like this. All right, I'm just going to keep this guy like this, and now I'll go here and create some depth. So yeah, something like this, and now this is starting to look cool. So if I hide that, we get this kind of effect. Yep. And the way this guy is looking, it's something like this. Yeah, it kind of looks like a mummy right now. So for the material of those splines, I haven't used absolutely any kind of texture. I just went in here, splines, added, I don't know, any kind of color you want, like this perhaps. Make this roughness like, I don't know, 0.18, metallic. Yeah, I don't care about metallic. Specular, I want this a bit higher. And yeah, we have this effect right now, which is looking really nice. All right, so that was the effect, and now let's get into lighting. Now, I usually use HDRIs to light things, but that's not all I do. I use HDRIs just to get a good base start, a good environmental base start. But then I need to use lamps of any kind to drive the light the way I want. And to do that, I first of all just take this off. So I want a pitch black scene. I'm going to hide all of those trees because they are eating up resources. Yeah, like this. And now if I render this, you can see that it's just pitch black. So there's absolutely no light. Exactly like this, which is what I want. Alright, now what I want to do is first of all create a sun lamp. I want to do some kind of lighting, kind of like this, and I want it to come from that direction. Alright, So we have something like this. Now, one thing we can do is switch to Eevee. So we can just see a lot better what everything is looking like. So go into render view, and we're going to have an easier time placing lights into the scene because everything is real time. Alright, so here's how the scene is looking. First of all, I want to increase this, perhaps a 3. I want us to make it bluish, like so, because this, remember, this is the moonlight. So I want it to be pretty bluish like that. Make sure this. Alright, so here's the things that I'm looking at when I'm lighting a scene. The important thing is that the light should help the viewer understand what the focal point is and where his eyes should be flowing to. Another thing that I look at when I'm lighting stuff is to create really nice rim lights like this. You see how good this is looking. The reason rim lights are so good for your scene is because it gives your render depth. So when I'm looking at this, I can clearly see that this figure right here is separated from other elements from the background because of the rim light. If I were to take the sun out, or if I were to rotate it some other way, or perhaps make it come from other direction, it's not going to play the same role anymore. Alright, so yeah, so that's the sun. Another thing I need to add is a volumetrics volume, and for that I'm going to make a cube that I'm going to go bounce so I can get to see it, and okay, fog material, go into shading, delete this because I'm going to need a principal volume, add this into the volume. Now we have volumetric fog, and I need to drive this down a bit. Anisotropy, I want it to be 0.6. I want this to be less, kind of like this. Alright, so kind of like this. At this point, I have a good direction for the sun, and what I want now is to add some of that HDRI back into the scene. But I don't want to put it to 1 because this is too much light. This is not a night scene anymore. So what I want to do is go incremental, like 0.1, 0.2, and what I'm looking at when I'm doing this is, so forget this guy because he's white, and let's not get the point across. So see this part over here, this is pitch black, and I don't want that. You should never want pitch black areas in your render, because in the real world there's no pitch black areas without any kind of light. So your renders, there shouldn't be any kind of light like that anyway. So what I'm looking at when I'm increasing this value is to see how it affects those darkest areas. And what I want to do is think about how this scene would look like in real life if it were lit by the moon, like it is right now, and how bright the indirect or the crevices would be in that context. So 0.1, this is getting me some nice some nice light in there, so I can actually see that there is detail in there and it's not pitch black anymore. Now I think 0.1 is a good value. If I go 0.2, I think this is a bit too much. I would actually go 0.8. So see the difference, the subtle difference. So 0, this is pitch black, but the moment I turn it up to 0.08, you can see the detail in there, and that makes all the difference in the world. Now I think I've just made a mistake because I've just unhide everything. No, it seems to be moving all right. Yeah, that's all right. One other thing that I want to do right now is, now that I look at this in a render view, I can see that those trees are kind of too thin, and I want something more dense in there, so I'm going to add another layer of trees in the back. And I think I'm just going to use those trees. Yeah, I think I'm just going to use those and do a pass over there. Just make those up like that, something like that. Let's see how it looks. Yeah, it looks a bit better, but then again, this is just a tutorial, and I'm not actually spending the actual time that I would have if it was in my final render. But you should spend more time and place things in the correct way and do a correct framing and all that good stuff. Now, what I want to do next is I want to add the light from the fire. So simply just add an area light, turn this 180 degrees to be facing upward, make it bigger, but let's make it bigger from here. So 5 meters, 7 meters, bring it up a bit. And now I'm just going to increase this light by a bunch, because this needs to be bright as hell. So something like this now. And I'm going to make this really red because it is fire. It is fire, and fire is the color of the devil. So look, just look how cool this looks. Even now, when the lighting is not finished at all. And the fog plays a big role in here. I'm just going to make this guy a bit darker. Specularity, I'm just going to reset that to 0.5 because I don't want him to be too distracting. Again, I don't know where the textures for this guy is, so I'm not going to bother searching for that. I just want to show you the process I'm using when creating scenes like this. I'm looking at this, and one thing that I see and I don't like is the fact that here, so from this tree to that tree over there, there's a big gap, and I wanted to fill that out with another tree, and I think I'm just going to reuse this same tree over here, rotate it, scale it down a bit, and I'm going to place it there. Now go rendered, and I like this much more. Alright, now I'm selecting the camera. I want to add some depth of field. I want the main focus to be on our protagonist over here. So then again, select the camera, focus on object, this object. Right, so now you can see there's some slight depth of field. If I turn it off, back on, you can see. Blades, I like putting this to 5. It makes a good bokeh effect. You can change the f-stop to control how shallow the depth of field is, but I think that 2.8 in this case is pretty fine, because if we go lower to a 1.2, the depth of field is going to be too shallow and it start to look like this is a miniature set. So see how blurry this ground over here is. In order for that ground to be so blurry, it should be really close to the camera and the guy as well. But considering how small the guy is in the frame, it cannot actually be that close to the camera in order to create such a shallow depth of field. So for that matter, I'm going to revert back to 2.8, like so, which I think is a nice value for this. Good. Now, there are some more tricks that I want to talk about when it comes to lighting. I'm just going to enable the grass in here because I'm curious about how it looks. And it's so dark that you can't actually see it, but what you can see, and is actually a really nice detail, is if I can move down there, as the grass of blades right here, because right now you get an imperfect edge and plays a big role when you look up, the small details in the scene. So stuff like that hugely increases the goodness of a render, should I say so. Alright, so we are in this point right now, and here's some things that come into my mind when I'm working on lighting. So first of all, what I don't like that this main figure doesn't have a I don't like that the fact he doesn't have a strong enough rim light, and I don't like that because this right here is our main focal point, and I want him to be really separated from the background. And to do that, I want to be able to add a really strong rim light, a rim light that the sun, the current sun, simply doesn't cast on this guy. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to add and just take off these particles. Come on. Alright, so what I'm going to do is add an area lamp. Where is it? Okay, so I'm going to add an area lamp. I'm going to make this, I don't know, like 3 meters, and I'm going to make this hit the back of the head of our main character. And I'm also going to make sure that the camera is off screen, is out of frame, because in reality it doesn't really make sense to have a camera, a light source in there. But if we can't see where the light is coming from, then it doesn't really matter, because we can imagine that it makes sense to be there. Alright, so now going into render view once again, and I'm going to increase the power of the light. Okay, so now you see that I'm getting some really nice highlights in the top of the head, on the shoulder blades, and that is exactly what I wanted, because right now what I'm doing is I'm separating this character from the background, and I'm making sure that the fact that this is a main character, this is a focal point, is conveyed in the viewer's eyes. I'm going to make this the same blue as the sun, because I want it to be the same color. I want it to be white like this. So I'm just going to paste color, yeah, exactly like this. And you can see before it doesn't pop up that much, and now with the light it's better. All right. Another thing I don't like is the fact that, I mean, I kind of like this, the fact that this tree is completely dark and it's kind of like a silhouette, but I don't like that on this guy, and I want him to also have a bit of fill light coming from right here, so you can see the character better, and you can see some more detail on his back, because right now he is completely he's a silhouette pretty much, and I want you to be able to see some of those wrinkles in the shirt. If the guy had textures, and which is not the case right now, I want you to see the textures. I wouldn't want you to see just a black figure, and honestly I want some light on this tree as well. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to add another area lamp. Size is about 5 meters, and just make the light come from behind, kind of like so, and make sure it's hitting our character from an angle, but from the back as well, something like this. So if I want to isolate those layers, and just make the light stronger. Now you can see the wrinkles. You know, you can see a lot more detail in here, but 1000 is way too much. I'm going to go like a 400 something. I'm actually going to make this, turn this down into 1 meter, and I'm going to bring it closer to our guy. Kind of like so. And right now I don't like the fact that it's casting so much light onto the ground, because it just makes it. Alright, so just get back. I want to make it so it doesn't cast that much light into the ground, because it makes it too bright, and I think that is kind of too busy for the eye, if you know what I mean. Alright, I'm just going to let this like this, but I'm going to make it a red color, and the reason I'm doing it as a red color is because I want it to be I want this to be complementary to the bluish tones of the rest of the scene. So yeah, I'm just going 400 reddish hue, and things are already looking much better. Another thing that I'm going to do, I'm going to copy this light that I've just made, and I'm going to use it to light up this part of the tree a bit. So I'm going to copy this, make this a bit bigger, and turn it towards the tree somehow, and something like this. And let's see how this is looking. And we can turn this value up to 1000, I guess, just until it is visible on that tree over there. Yeah, I guess that's alright. I guess so. Alright, so what other things I would do? I want to move this tree a bit, because it's kind of in the way right now. I want to make some more space in there. Yeah, this is better. This is much better. Alright, so one other thing I did in my render, in my actual render, was I've done some set tracing there. So for that I will just isolate this. And I'm going to use Botaniq again to do some IVs. So spawn asset, go find, no, that's not it, IV, yeah, this is one, and I don't know, just choose one, go OK, and you know, just place this around here on the margins, the corner, like this, copy it, something like that, and just easily just populate this area, you know, something like that. And now it is already looking more interestingly. Another thing I want to do is spawn some stones. So where the fuck was that? So rocks. Let's get a nice big rock. I don't know, maybe actually this one. Spawn this into our scene. Come on. And remember that I have made this little hill around here, and that is because I wanted to place a rock kind of like this, yeah, something like that. We can actually place some rocks around this area. So, you know, just get some rocks, add those into the scene, place them around, you know, just to populate this area, and making sure that those stuff are not too repetitive, and everything is looking nice and natural. So perhaps something like that. I don't know, I don't want to spend too much time on this, as I said. Alright, so hit the render button and see how things are looking at the moment. Alright, so this is how the scene is looking at the moment, and there is two things I want to do before we would hit render. And first of all is a lighting issue. I mean, it's not actually an issue, it's just something that we need to add, and that is the face. So this area right here is too dark, and there's little to no detail in there. So I want to add another area light coming from the opposite direction to that one. So this kind of comes from this area, so we can light this guy's face a bit better. So I'll just copy this one and make some light shine into this guy's face, like so. And now if I go into render view, you can see that his face is well lit. But I'm going to turn the power down because it's a bit too strong at the moment. I'm going to make it a 500, I guess. Move the light a bit closer to his face. Yeah, and I'm just going to leave it like that. I don't worry about it. Again, this is just a tutorial. You take your time. You could spend days on this to make it better and look perfect. But I only have like a couple of hours to recreate this render, so of course I'm going to move faster in here and not pay that much attention to all the details. Alright, so that is one issue fixed, and the other one is the smoke. So we don't have smoke right now. So in the initial render you can see all this smoke coming out of the hole as it was burning, and we are going to recreate that. And the way we are going to do it is without any fluid simulations or smoke simulations, because that is costly and takes forever. So the way we are going to do it is I've prepared an image. So this is the image we're going to use, which is basically a grayscale image of some folk cards. This is what they're called. They're used in video games, but we are going to use them right now. And the way we're going to do this is make a plane, subdivide this a bunch of times in order for us to be able to manipulate it and bend it the way we want it. Now go and make a new material, call that a folk card. Go to the shading, go to your plane, bring this in and connect it like this. Alright, and because this is a grayscale texture, we can actually we can use the same texture in the alpha to make it a transparent like this, which is cool. Now what I want to do is go into UV editing, so fog, and just decrease the size of this until we only have one of those inside. And now it's looking like this. It looks pretty much like a single cloud of fog, or just a cloud. Now with this we can go into material preview and make this much bigger, like so. Rotate it like this down to the camera view, and simply add this around like so until you like what you see, so you can do like this, add that over there, then just duplicate this, rotate around. You can go to edit mode and do some bending, so it's not a straight card like this. Yeah, that's all right. And come on, place this maybe in the back or something. No, just place in the back to add even more detail. And you can do this how much you like and use it to your advantage, however you might please. Alright, so if I go into render, you can see that now this fog is visible. Then again, spend the time, don't just rush, don't do it as fast as I'm doing it here, because if I were to work on this normally, I wouldn't have spent just 2 hours on it, of course. So that is how you make the fog cards, and yeah, this is pretty much how you make the whole scene that I've done. Let me just do a couple more things in here. So camera, no, viewport, yeah, this is what I wanted. Okay, so this is how how I made the scene. It's of course not the exact same replica because even I don't know how what I've done exactly step by step in the previous render, but yeah, this is all the techniques I've used in order to come up with this render. Yeah, this guy doesn't have textures on him. I don't know where the fuck the textures are. I'm not going to go look for textures right now. I would spend more time dressing and placing the trees, especially around here, because this is looking kind of bad, but I would spend some more time populating the areas in the back as well, maybe some kind of leaves around here. Another thing I would do is I would add a hair particle and make some hair particles in here to make it look like it's an actual moss or grass, and like we interact with that. And of course, the same way we've done the grass for that small area in there, I would place some grass in here and there and there and there and there and in a bunch of other places. But yeah, I don't have time for that anymore. So let's say that this is the render. This is the final render. Of course, I would have switched back to cycles, do a proper render. And let's jump into Photoshop and see what I've done. Alright guys, so here is the raw render that I've outputted out of Blender when I first did this project. This is how it looked like, and in here I'm just going to go in a bit of a breakdown of what I've done for my actual render. So first of all, as you can see, there's nothing. The background, it doesn't exist. So what I've done, I've just downloaded a night sky photo, and just come on, just make this big like this, put it under my my render, and just play around with it. What the fuck? Why does it do that? I don't have time for that anymore. But what I want to do is make this smaller because the stars were looking kind of big. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to duplicate those. Now it's looking a bit better. To rasterize those, and I'm going to do a bit of blending. Not that. Yeah, and this as well. No, stop doing that. Yeah, so just blending those to form one single image, which I'm then merging into one layer. Now, there's one thing that I need to adjust, and that is if we were to look at those trees and then at the sky, you can see that those are brighter than the sky, and that is wrong. So I'm going to add a hue and saturation. I'm going to saturize this. I'm going to a bluish, and I'm going to make this much brighter, like so, until it kind of matches those branches in there. This, kind of like this. So here's the difference. This is looking off, and this is looking correctly. So I can even just merge those because I'll never change that again. one other reason, one other thing I'm doing is duplicating those, making those into a single layer, and converting this to a smart object. I then go to filter, camera raw filter, and I'm doing all my final post-processing in here. Just a second. Okay, so yeah, now it's all right. So do it again. Smart object, camera raw filter, and the post-processing is going to happen in here. Now, the first thing I would always do when I'm doing the post-processing on a render is I make sure that the histogram and all the values are looking fine. So I turn this into black and white, and I'm looking here into the histogram. Now I want this to be a bit more exposed like this. That is all right. I just want to make sure that this heel in the histogram is kind of in the middle, around here. Now what I want to do is turn off some of those highlights because I'm losing some detail in the highlights. So turn that down, turn the shadows a bit up. Now I move the whites to the right until oh, that's all right. Put this back into color and moving the whites down until this becomes dark, like black, and then just move it to the right a bit until there's the coloring there. Now, what this is what I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to make sure that I'm using the whole range of values that I can use. So I'm using the pixels from the darkest from the darkest pixels to the whitest pixels, and I'm using all this histogram, and that's making sure that I have a well exposed render. With my histogram, we're looking like this, and then just zero out. So if I were to have a heel here on the side, on the left, that would mean that my render is underexposed, and if my heel was right over there on the right and then nothing, then my render would have been too overexposed. I'll do the same for the black point. I'll just go to the left until this turns from black to anything else. So just go to the left until see it turned red. All right. Now, clarity, I don't do that. I don't like the effect it gives me, but I'm also going to turn this a bit towards the blue, maybe towards the green, have something like that. Yeah, that's looking nice, and also closer to what I have done. Vibration, I need to take this a little bit. Now I'm going to curves, and I'm doing a simple S curve to make this a bit more contrasty, so kind of like this as well. Alright, I'm going to HSL adjustments, and yeah, I'm basically making sure that the reds are a bit more red, orange is a bit more towards the red, the yellows, I want those to be a bit more towards the orange, the greens, I don't have no idea what those are doing. Yeah, I'm basically just moving sliders up and down and see how this is affecting my render. Now I'm going to saturation, and here what I want to make sure is that the fire is really vibrant and really bright, because I want it to capture your attention, and because of that I want the reds to be, no, the reds I want to be left alone, I want the oranges to be really vibrant. You see the difference in there? The yellows I want to be a bit more vibrant. And then the rest, I can go down a bit. And the blues. And then the luminance as well. So the greens and the blues make up for the main part of the render, but the reds make up the focal point. So greens and blues want to go lower, something like that. Something like this, something like this. While those will go towards the direction that will make them more vibrant. So making them lighter will make those brighter, but will not, the color will not be as vibrant. So I'm going to turn this a bit down as well and turn these yellows up a bit, so it looks like there's so much more energy in there. I think the saturation is a bit too much, so I'm taking that away. The blues are alright where they were. Moving on, I usually like to do some subtle split toning with the highlights being kind of reddish like that, a bit saturated, and then the blues something dark and brown like that, and blue like that, or maybe just even green color like this. Yeah, that's more like it. Going to the effects, I need to add some grain. It's not really you can't really see it right now, but it's there, trust me. And of course some nice vignette to better frame everything. Yeah, you can see how cool this is looking right now. So before, now your eyes are drawn to the middle of the image, which is what I wanted. I'm going to calibration and I'm going to play with the reds a bit. You can see what effect this is causing. This is cool as well, but not what I wanted. So I can bring it back and I'm making the reds close to right a bit, the blues, turning those a bit into the negative value. You can play with the saturation of this one mainly, and perhaps the greens as well. You can do something like that. And yeah, that would be pretty much my post-processing. So you can see before and after, huge difference, especially in color values. But other than that, everything is looking way better with the camera filter compared to without one. So you can see that yourself. All right, I really have to go. So this is all I wanted to show you today. So yeah, let's see what we've done today. So we've used MakeHuman, which is a free piece of software, in order to create our human creature here. We then have used Blender combined with Quixel Mixer in order to create our ground plane. We've then made use of Botaniq, which is a Blender add-on for the foliage. So every kind of grass you see around here is due to that. We've also made use of Quixel Megascans to bring in some of those glyphs that you see around here, and this statue as well. We've talked a bit about lighting and why lighting in certain aspects and techniques is better, what is a rim light, why it helps so much, how we can use light to draw the attention of the viewers into the region of the render we want them to spend most time with their eyes. We've also made sure we use volumetrics. We we saw how we can use Eevee in order to quickly prototype our cycle scene so we don't wait around forever to render stuff. And then we brought everything back into Photoshop, where we've done some post-processing. The truth is, I didn't actually do the whole post-processing in here, because the actual render, you can see it has some sparks in here, it has some dust particles, some lens flares, those are all textures I got from Google. I place them around over my render. The sparks in here, the lens flare, all of that is just done as part of compositing into Photoshop. So yeah, this is everything I wanted to show you today. You just go and do some cool stuff in Blender. I'm waiting for that.